Hello, my name is David A. Mumford, also known as DAM, and I'm a London-based designer slash upcycler. And I'm here today to show you my creative, which is going to be a sun cape, which is a throw that you can wear in the sun on the beach or when it's just too hot, and it's upcycled from one man's shirt. What else you will need is 75 centimeters of cotton bias binding. I use cotton because I just find it's actually easier to work with, so if you're a beginner it's easier to handle. And 75 centimeters of a ribbon tape, which we're going to use as a tie. So the first thing we want to do is cut up the length of the side seam. Sharp scissors. So you cut up to the armhole, you cut close to the seam all around the sleeve edge where it joins the body of the shirt. Always make sure that the material's flat out on the table and you're not cutting through another part of the shirt. So that's one sleeve off, and then we repeat the same process on the other side. So then we've got both the sleeves off. We're wanting to separate the front from the back. So this one, what I do is, it's good if you just cut close to the front of the shirt yoke seam. This is the area which runs across the shoulders on a shirt. Then when we actually reach the front of the collar, cut very close to the collar edge. Now on this one now, we want to cut along what was the back yoke. And you'll see we're left with this piece. There's the collar and the yoke attached. So now you'll see you've got the back in one piece. What we want to do now is fold that in half. So now that's the back folded in half. But so this is going to become the new neckline here. Now for that, because it's actually a hooded piece, I've actually made a pattern from a piece of card. And I did that simply just by taking an old hoodie that I'd got and looking at it and copying it. Now obviously you can measure this on yourself to see what size you want it. So I've created a hood pattern. And then also what I've done is I've created a template for what's going to be the new neck hole to fit the hood into. That needs to be the same size as this twice. So obviously this is going to be in two pieces. So you can see there's a piece there. It's going to become the neck hole which the hood will attach to. What you want to do is place this on the fold that I've made in the back section here. And now with a piece of tailor's chalk, we're just going to mark that new neck hole on. So then we're going to remove that by cutting. Just cut on the chalk line and around the little curved edge. And then at this point, you want to give yourself a little notch, because that's going to mark the position where the hood seam will be. Now what I'm doing is I'm reshaping this area. So what we want to do is we just want to chalk a line on diagonally from the bottom where the original hem was and up, removing this original armhole seam. Again, maximise the width here because it gives us more fabric, like so. What we're doing is we're removing this original armhole shaping. So we just cut. Okay, so that's one piece ready. Now, lay them right sides together, matching the buttons to the buttonholes. You can do them up to make sure that it's in line. Just keep it all nice and flat. In fact, if the shirt actually has a pocket, it's good because we're going to reuse the pocket detail. And it's from this section we're actually cutting our hood. We're cutting it in a pair. Now the other thing that's important is just make sure that you're containing some working buttonholes and also the pocket. So, and then with our chalk, and then we're cutting through the two layers together. So that's our hood cut. We're actually going to open this sleeve out. So again, similar to what we did before, we're cutting close to the original underarm seam. Because I pressed this earlier, I've actually got a crease, so you can see the crease in the sleeve. I'm going to cut through that. So what we're doing is we're opening the shirt out, the sleeve out. So then you repeat the process with the other sleeve. There we are. And there we have it. All of these pieces are now prepared, and the next step is to move to the sewing machine to put it all together. And now we've moved over to the sewing machine, and we're going to make the sun cape upcycle from one shirt. From the pieces I already showed you earlier, this was the hood pieces, if you remember. I'm going to stitch them together across the top curved seam. Now of course this is on an industrial machine, but you can just as easily do this on a domestic. Now I've completed that seam, we're going to go to the overlocker. Now this stitch can also be done on your domestic with a zigzag. So then what we're doing is we're overlocking that curved seam across the top of the hood, which I just stitched. So that's the hood done. So we're going to put that to one side. What we're doing is we're just neatening all these edges. I've got the curved edge here, but first of all I'm going to put on the sleeves. What we're doing is we're joining the sleeves to the edges away from the curve. When you actually get to this point here, turn back 1 centimetre, because that's going to be the hem for this piece. And we can come off there. You see I've just turned the seam allowance back 1 centimetre. Get rid of the threads. So now all of those seams are finished. So what we want to do is match the finished edge to the double turned edge at that point. You can pin this if you want to, but what we do is we're stitching around there. The notch that I put centrally earlier corresponds to the seam that goes across the top of the hood. I have now attached the hood to the neck opening. And now what I'm doing is, from the piece of bias binding that I told you to get earlier, now this is a cotton tape which has a double turn folded edge. I think you're all familiar with that. What you want to do is you take one folded edge and you stitch it to the neck edge. This is a really good way of neatening a seam, and it adds it a bit of contrast. So you've got the black contrasting with the stripe of the shirt. So that's that attached to one side. As you can see, that's a little bit overly long. So I'm just going to trim that down so that it extends over the edge by 1 centimetre. Now what we're doing is we're folding that in, the corners in. That's why I chose to use a cotton one, because it's easier to work with. You make like a little envelope, fold it in, and then that edge turns over on itself and covers the other side of the seam. Now this is folding over. You're stitching on the edge. Then when you get to this end, repeat the process of just folding in the corners like a little envelope, like that. And then that's finished off there. So that just covers all the raw edges of that seam. and also gives us a contrast colour detail. Okay, so that's the neck edge of the hood bound. This is the hood seam. See the seam below it? That's where you want to attach the tie. Flip it and stitch it. Trim your cottons. Now what we're doing is, you turn it around, you can see the sleeve detail, the placket detail on the hood, the pocket detail. And now the cuff detail comes around onto the back. You literally find the position for that. You see the bottom of the cuff where it finishes there and there. You've got the corner. Match that to that seam and that to there. So that's there like that. Look, and if you see, that's where your arm will come out. And then you've got the cuff detail on the back. So let's just stitch that flat, the edge of the cuff flat onto the back. So there we have it. So obviously this, I said sun cape, it's good for protecting you against the sun when you go out on the beach with your cosy on underneath, or it's also quite good to throw over a dress for an evening gown, you never know. And then you see the details of the cuffs on the back. Voila, finished.